So today I decided it is time to break these plants down into individual pots or plants. Look at these beautiful babies. These are all of my tomato plants right here. In the last video, I showed you how I planted multiple seeds in each one of these containers. That way I could see which ones germinated and which ones the strongest will be. I'm going to weed them out and then plant them in individual containers. Let's see how they're doing. Okay, so these are all my tomato plants. I have some pepper plants over here. These are my jalapenos. I have 3 different cells with jalapenos. My poblanos actually started coming up. Some of these were delayed in germinating. Let's see, this one is a poblano. Back there, I have a few cayenne peppers that are popping through. Oh, it looks like I do have a couple of green pepper plants, the bell peppers that are popping through. Those actually are taking the longest. They took so long I didn't think they were going to germinate, so then I planted some more, and I have those up here that I just planted. I think it was, let's see, it was on Sunday the 24th I planted. Something else I planted on Sunday the 24th, which today is the 27th, are cucumbers, because if you remember the last video, I planted out 3 rows of cucumbers, but these were the ones that were dated like to use by 2008. So I was just doing an experiment to see if they really were viable or not, and they're not. So these were 15 cells that I planted. I decided it's time for me to go ahead and buy some more. So I had Todd run to the store and I planted these on Sunday, which were just a few days ago. And look, almost every one of them have already germinated. These are cucumbers. These cucumbers are called Sumpter cucumbers. These were the seed packets, so they're organic seeds. They're doing great. So I went ahead and put just 1 seed per cell. So I'm going to have plenty of cucumbers to plant this year. I had, let's see, I have some muncher cucumbers that did go ahead and germinate. There looks like there's 3 here. And I had a few more. Okay, it looks like these were munchers right here. So I have 3 planted in here. And then I have 3 in this one. So that's 6. And then I have, 40 cells. So I have 40 more plants here. So if you grow seedlings, or if you even have a garden, a vegetable garden, and you buy seed plants, the starter plants at the store, you know how expensive this could be. So starting your seeds is very, very economical. These are my marigolds. Not every one of the cells popped up, but these seeds were, I think these seeds were probably maybe a couple years old, but that's okay. There's still quite a few marigolds that have popped up, and I probably, and if I don't think I'm gonna need any more, but if I do, I will go ahead and just buy some more seeds. But here are my melons. They're getting nice and big. I'm gonna have to pop them in probably bigger cells, because it's going to be a little bit before I can plant them outside. Those were my cantaloupes that I planted, and I had some of my sage seeds pop up. So it looks like I have 2, 4, 6 sage seeds that popped up, so I'm going to probably split that out into other individual cells. Rosemary always takes forever, and so does lavender. Hopefully those will still germinate. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take all of my tomato plants and take the strongest ones in each one of these cells and break them down into individual cells. I'm calling these cells. So let's go ahead and get all of that set up and going. So the soil that I bought online is doing fantastic. I love how well that is working. I am going to go ahead, just like I did before when I started the seeds, I'm going to mix the rest of that soil, which I have some of the starter mix, which is pretty much peat moss, and the soil that I just threw in there. I'm going to mix some of that with this perlite as my base for these cups now that they have been germinated. This is the perlite. But now that the seeds have been germinated, this is going to be their final resting spot before I plant them in the garden. So I've got all of this set up here. I'm gonna fill these cells and I will show you how I break down all of these plants into individual plants. So just as I did before the previous video, I'm just mixing everything in this tote. And once I get all this mixed up, I'm gonna then add a little bit of water to it just to make sure that the soil is damp, not sopping wet or anything, but just damp, just to kind of get those plants a head start. So we got that done. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just gonna take these cups or these cells and loosely fill them, not quite to the top, but I'm gonna loosely fill them and I'll put them in the tray here. So I'll go ahead and keep doing that until I get the whole tray filled. So I'm gonna use this handy dandy little tool here. And just like I did with the seedlings, I'm going to make holes in the center because there's now only gonna be one plant per cell. This time I'm gonna go a little deeper than what I did with the seeds. The seeds were only maybe 1/4 inch from the surface. Well, actually with the tomato seeds, I basically sprinkled the seeds on and then I sprinkled soil over the top so I could get this. But the other plants, the other seeds that I planted that I only had like 1 or 2 per cell, that's what I did. Oh my goodness, I am so excited this year for growing season. This is the first year I'm using this technique where I just put a bunch of seeds in one. I think, well, I'll let you know how it ends up turning out, but it's just beneficial because you can see which ones germinate and you don't have to waste seed cells. So I'm going to be planting the Martino's Romas. These were from Baker's Creek. So I have 3 different cells that I have planted seeds like this. The reason why I'm doing mostly Romas this year is because we're going to be doing a lot of canning this year. And for tomatoes, we like different sauces, whether it's like a pasta sauce, which we will use like also for pizzas and things like that. Also salsas. We did salsas last year, but last year we didn't have a whole lot of tomatoes to do the canning. So this year we wanted to make sure there were plenty because we were having to go to the farmer's market to get some of our produce because we didn't have enough. So basically all I'm going to do is I am just going to go through and I'm just going to weed out the plant. I'm going to try to plant it as deep as possible. If you notice on tomato plants, they have these hairs that grow on the sides. That's what it looks like, but these are going to all turn into roots. And so I'm going to try to plant this as deep as possible because the more coverage soil has on that plant, the more roots are going to produce and the stronger that plant is going to be. So I'm just going to add more soil around that. Oh. So that is how deep I'm going to plant it. Now, if this plant gets too leggy in the process of it continuing to grow, when I plant it out in my garden, I will do the same thing. I will plant it as deep as possible. The length of the legginess, if all of those roots grow out of it, it's going to create a nice strong plant. So I'm going to continue doing that. You just gently, you can see all the roots on there. I'm just going to gently pull apart these plants. Now, I'm probably not going to plant every single one of these plants out in my garden, but I'm going to have plenty that I can give away to anybody who would like tomato plants, and it'll be free to them. And they won't have to worry about spending money because, my gosh, these days, I'm trying to think the last time I had to pay for a plant, like a starter plant for my garden. I think I did last year. I think there were a couple plants, maybe pepper plants that didn't make it, and so I went and I bought some. But I want to say plants this size, which is like 4 inches. I want to say I spent, my gosh, what was it? Maybe a couple of dollars, but they're not cheap, especially if you plan on planting a lot of them. So I'm just going to try to select the strongest ones here. And I'm going to continue doing this until I have the tray full, which, as you can tell, I probably only needed one of these, well, one of these cells for each species of plant that I'm planting, because I have several different types. I have Romas that are Martina Romas. I have some Romas that are from Burpee, and then I have two or three cells of the Burpee Romas, and then I have a couple of these Pentano Romanescos, which aren't quite, I think they're a kind of an in-between, if I remember correctly, between a Roma and like a meat potato, or maybe they were like a Roma type. Anyways, I got a lot of tomato plants, so I'm gonna go ahead and get planting. I also have some pepper plants here. I think I'm gonna leave these alone until they get a little bit bigger, but it's gonna be the same process in terms of separating them out into individual cells. So let me go ahead and get this done. This is how far I have gotten so far with this tray. Soil is gone, so I have to buy more because I have all of these to finish up on. Let me show you what else I have finished up as well. I have this tray of 18. Now mind you, this is all one species of tomatoes, the Martino Roma. That's the only thing I've gotten to, which were the first 3 containers. And then I have all of these. I went ahead and reused this tray last year. It looked like they were impatiens. Looks like there's 12 here, 18 here, and the balance here is close to 32 plants of the same tomatoes, which is the Martino's Roma from Baker's Creek. So I'm going to finish up on all of these, get them in the grow room. I initially just sprayed the tops, but watering moving forward, I am going to water from the bottom. The only reason why I watered from the tops is because when you're transplanting plants, it shocks them. So I wanted to make sure, they were already starting to look a little bit droopy, so I wanted to make sure that they got a good watering. And note to self, next year, this special soil that I purchased online on Amazon, I need to make sure that I purchase at least 2 bags, especially if I grow the same amount. I will know more when it's actually time for planting, how many plants I will actually plant in the ground. Like I said, whatever I don't plant in the ground, I am going to go ahead and I will give away and gift those plants to someone else so that they have a bountiful harvest as well. But anyways, this is just the start of my 2024 gardening journey. Anything that I used in this video, such as the soil, the 4-inch square containers that I used today in planting or transplanting the plants, I will go ahead and link below. But anyways, if you would like to continue following me on this journey, be sure you subscribe. I appreciate you. Thank you for taking the time out, and that's a wrap. Thank you for watching. Until next time.